Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Welcome, everyone. Please check in with yourself right now. Do you know yourself as presence? Meaning, is there awareness of here-ness, now-ness? This sense of here-ness or now-ness is before all perceptions in the mind. When we enter into silence together, we're not doing so just to achieve a state of peace or a state of calm, although that's really valuable. That's not the only reason we do it. Peace and calm are a consequence, or a result, or a fruit, you can say, of entering into presence. This presence that I'm pointing toward is not the sense of me-ness that you feel when you are engaged in some very interesting activity or pursuing some pleasure or avoiding some pain. Not this me-ness. This sense of presence is what is here before all of your experience. You can know that you are in this state of presence or in this awareness of presence when three characteristics are present. The first is awareness itself. Awareness itself manifests in the waking state as the simple perception, I am, or I exist. This is not a perception in the mind. It's not a thought. It's what you feel right in this moment. You know you are here. This knowing is before even the concept or the perception that there is a you or a me. You simply know I exist, or that awareness is here. You know this. You know it intuitively, and you don't think about it. But I'm asking you to notice it. You are aware in this moment. This is not what you are aware of. This is not, I'm aware of the light in the room. I am aware of the taste of my cup of coffee. I am aware of another person in another room. This is simply awareness. Simple awareness allows whatever else is in the space of awareness to be there without comment. without opinion, as a simple observation, perhaps, that something is present, but it's not significant. What is known is I am aware, or awareness is here, more directly. The second characteristic of presence is a certain alertness. It's not the kind of alertness that is possible through the focusing on an object. If you are really into a movie or really into a song or really into some music, you focus your awareness or your attention very pointedly. And for that period of time that you are focused on that object, there is a sense of alertness, of joy, of presence even, that comes from the connection with the sense door to the object. So that can be taste, touch, smell, and so on. With any sense object or with some activity or some person in the world. And as long as that attention is there and it is strong, there is a sense of alertness or awakeness which is within you. But when we go into the silence, when it is just me or just this attention or just this awareness, what happens then? Are you able to remain alert? Check and see. Do you tend to go into torpor or into a sleepiness or into an in-between state? This is not alertness. It may be very peaceful. It may be very calming. But it also may be a laya state. A state of almost nothingness while not sleeping. So I'm referring to a kind of alertness, which is here in the natural state when awareness, which is not bound by a projection, a desire, and so on, is here. So when alertness is here, coupled with awareness, then this sense of presence, this sense of I amness becomes stronger, even when the I is let go of. The third stage of presence, one can call emptiness. This emptiness is the emptiness of nobody here. But it's not just the emptiness of nobody here. This recognition of no me is also the recognition of no you, no they. This feeling, this perception, if you will, that awareness is here, that there is an alertness here, but it is not personal. And because it's seen as being not personal here, it's known that all of the objects, all of the other people, all of the sensations, all of the experiences that we have are also empty of the personal. That's not to say that they aren't happening. We're not in denial here. We can see what is happening, but we know there's a deep knowing that what is happening here has nothing personal about it. It is simply the spontaneous arising of being, consciousness in some way. So the three characteristics of presence are awareness, or more directly, awareing, alertness, that which guards against torpor or laya or confusion, and the recognition that all phenomena which are coming and going in the body, the senses, the mind, and the world are empty of an inherent self-nature. In other words, without the observer of the phenomenon, there is no phenomenon. In knowing, in the silence of our meditation, contemplation, whatever you'd like to call it, in this knowing, there's not nothing. There is awaring. There is an alertness which is not a huge effort. It's more of a relaxation into being in the awareness itself, with the knowledge that what is coming and going is simply coming and going. It is not personal. We practice this in a certain way, or we enter this space during a period of contemplation, meditation. We enter this space in order to become firm in our foundation that all experience is composed of these three elements: awareness, alertness, or attention, and emptiness. When we have this as a firm foundation, or these three, this presence, which I am, when we have this as a firm foundation, then we are able to be in the world or out of the world. We are able to be in deep meditation. We are able to be in the mind or in the mindscapes without attachment, with the simple power to observe, to allow what comes to come and allow what goes to go, as Bhagavan said. And we do this through the power of presence, not through the power of me, but through the power of presence. Presence which has as its components alertness, awareness, and the recognition of emptiness. From this foundation, we are able to move freely in the mindscapes of our own being, in our emotions, in the world, in the experience of the senses. We are able to move in these things, in these experiences, free from attachment, free from confusion, free, simply free, allowing what comes to come, allowing what stays for a period of time to stay, and allowing what goes to go. The reality is not what is coming and going. It is what remains as being, consciousness and bliss, awareness, alertness, and emptiness. This is the nature of reality. Standing on this firm foundation, one becomes fearless. Fearless because there is nothing to fear. Everything is seen. Everything is seen through. Everything is seen to be empty. Everything is seen to be possible only because of the recognition of awareness which is here. Not awareness which is there or out there or coming at me as an out there or a someone or a something, but an awareness which is here and is able to open and receive whatever is coming and going, knowing it in truth, in its empty nature. Knowing phenomenon in this way One is able to move if one needs to move, to act if one needs to act, to stay still when one needs to stay still. Why? Because there is no one here who assumes a point of view or a position that needs to be defended, needs to be moved against, needs to be resisted. If there's any movement at all, it is really to open to the totality of everything which is here, and then to respond appropriately to whatever's here. Not through the imagination, not through the projection, not through a memory from the past or a fear for the future, but rather to be here now, free to respond in this moment. So continue your exploration of awareness, alertness, and emptiness. And I promise you, you will see your experience change. You will see your levels of anxiety and fear, your levels of not trusting go down. And your attention will become more and more focused on that which you are. When Bhagavan Ramana said, remain as you are, this is what he meant. He didn't mean as you as a personality. He meant you as being, consciousness, you as awareness, alertness, and emptiness. Find this foundation for yourself. Set yourself free, whatever your circumstances. Okay. Questions or comments, please raise your hand or your digital hand or something. I think I have everyone on one screen today. I'm not sure. Oh no, I can see that I don't now. So I have two screens open. So please, if you want to speak or you want to make a comment or you want to talk to me, please raise your digital hand because that will show up on my screen, whichever screen you are on. Hello, Honor.
Hi, Rishi.
Hari Om.
Good to see the body is well.
Yes, it's coming along.
Yes. I'm very, very pleased to see that. Very pleased to see the body still remains here to help the rest of the people.
Ah,
Thank you.
that's the way you are the one keeping me here, is it?
No, not really. No,
Okay.
you know, but yes, thank you. I'm very glad. Body's healed. Very glad. All right, Rishi.
Thank you. Hello, dear Puneet. Hello. Pranam.
Rishiji, I just wanted to thank you for all that you do for us. You do so much for us. So I just finally felt that I just to thank you.
Hello, Phil.
Hmm. Hello, Rishi. Hi.
Yeah.
It's great to see you. I'm glad you're doing so well. Um,
Thank you.
um, I I appreciate what you were saying this morning. I always appreciate what you say. But particularly because I've been recognizing that I tend to have a way of making awareness a thing,
Yes,
like something I'm straining to see, like to do some kind of maneuver to find,
yes,
like,
yes,
oh, if I just find it and grab it and hold it, then it's okay.
yes.
You know,
And what do you find out?
I don't really seem to be able to do it.
Yes. So I want to say a couple, before we go too much further, I will say a couple of things about that. One is, yes, your experience is absolutely right. You can't grab it and hold it.
Hmm.
But also that this is a natural step in the pursuit of inquiry. In other words, you can only look at the objects for a certain period of time, whether it's a few weeks or a few years. You can only look at the objects outside yourself for a period of time. And then this question, who am I, rises in some form or another. And when that happens, the natural tendency is for the attention which we have used previously to look at this and that and this sensation and that sensation, taste, touch, experience, lover, partner, whatever it is. We have this ability within our mental makeup to focus our attention on the object. So when we take up the question, who am I? It only makes sense that that attention will try to do what you are saying. It will try to turn toward itself. So without discouraging you from making the effort, I just want to say, pay attention to the way that attention tries to turn.
Hmm.
Okay? I think you understand what I'm talking about. If you are engaged in this level of practice, you understand what I mean. You are sitting here quietly, you are open, and you are saying, what is aware in some way? You are saying, what is awareness? Where is it? You know that you can look out at an object. Now you are saying, where is awareness? And it will try to turn back toward itself. Attention will try to turn back, make awareness an object the way that it has made everything else an object. The good news is that there comes a moment when you are aware of this characteristic that feels like turning, and you aren't distressed by it. You're just aware that the attention is trying to turn inward and find awareness. That you simply observe this turning characteristic.
Hmm.
Because the result of that at one moment will be that this attention will actually drop. It will drop that activity of trying to turn, and it will simply be. And then you will see that you are not that attention. You are not you are not what is looking for the objects. You are simply that which is aware. And this is not an expression of you-ness. You will come into the fullness of awareness. Just maybe briefly, and maybe you'll stay there for a long time. But you'll come to know that attention and awareness are two different things. And that you don't need attention on an object in order to know yourself as awareness. This is the consequence of this turning. So let yourself do it, but try not to do it with so much stress or so much strain.
Thank you. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I do have the experience at times of, just kind of relaxing into something without a strain, without a grasping. I like what you said about, it is a natural tendency of attention, the habit of mind to focus.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, hmm.
And you can use this same, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to use this same attention that you would, put on a piece of cake that you like. You're trying to put that same attention on something which has no material component. But the value in doing that is it breaks down what you know attention to be. It breaks attention down into its core, so that then you see that attention is something you do. It is not something you are. Awareness is what you are. Attention is what the mind does on an object.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if you look right now in this moment, go ahead and take the attention that you're putting on your screen right now and just try to turn that attention toward that which is aware. All of you can do this. Turn your attention toward that which is aware. And you will see something. Can you find this awareness?
I don't find anything.
No? Okay, so the answer,
I find a presence.
so you cannot find awareness, correct? Nobody can find awareness. All of you that are doing this, you have used the attention, you have looked around inside, you cannot find awareness, right? Is that true, Phil? You cannot find awareness.
That is true. Yeah.
Then now let me ask you this question and respond spontaneously. Are you aware?
I'm definitely aware.
You're definitely aware. So now you can see that awareness cannot be taken as an object. This tells us that awareness is not a doing. Awareness is a being. It's before attention. This awareness which you are does not require you as a personality or a me-ness to focus attention. In fact, when you stop focusing attention, then you become aware. In the pristine state, not aware of an object, just aware. Yes?
Yes. Yeah.
So this awareness which you are in right now, which puts that smile on your face, this is the prior state. So just keep resting there. Now, the reason I say keep resting there is if you prevent this awareness in a way from using attention to try to focus in the way that it always has in the past, if you in essence hold your attention back, but allow awareness to be here as an open field, then what can happen is anything which gets in the field of awareness which might cause confusion or pain or suffering simply comes like a bubble on a stream and it flows by, because this awareness is prior to it. So it's aware, this awareness is untouched by whatever waves come, by whatever bubbles come. Even if the bubbles burst in the field of awareness, if there is a strong foundation in awareness itself, whatever comes, comes, whatever goes, goes. Whatever comes gently, whatever comes with an explosion, comes with an explosion. But in either case, there is no grasping or clinging to whatever's here. So become very firm in this being awareness rather than looking for awareness.
Hmm.
Everything begins to flow quite spontaneously beyond that. Mhm. Very good. Very good.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Quite welcome. Yeah. Nice to see you.
Great to see you, Rishi.
Okay, hello, Ron.
Hi, Rishi. Really nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Um, the three stages, I don't know if that's how you worded it, that you were describing earlier.
Yes, it's just it's a way I'm trying to explain to people what presence is, yes.
It seems to me, in my experience, that it's, it's more of aspects that are concurrently there. And at certain times I experience one aspect or perhaps more, but what I noticed when we were doing the silent sitting, that there's certainly this ebb and flow of the mind projecting myself and coming back,
Yes,
projecting and coming back,
yes,
and including the mind projecting a seeker that's trying to control that ebb and flow. So it seems like there's alertness to an extent, but there's also, some deep fascination with all these bubbles, and I wouldn't say
yes,
this is
yes,
most cases.
yeah. But you see, understand that it's that fascination with all these bubbles that we are actually letting go of when we hold the record in some way. Understand this is a practice, so you may experience it differently than I experience it, or even than I speak about it. But this is a practice which enables you to see the way in which that mind is attracted to those bubbles and comes and goes and is fascinated by that process and wants to do that. But it's the allowing of that, and it's necessary at times, but it's the allowing of that during a meditation period, which prevents you from going into this state of, or into this recognition of being consciousness. Because it keeps you involved in the ebb and flow of where the attention wants to go based on the strength of an object. And if you want to come to this place where you understand presence in its fullness, which is without any object, then that's the recommendation I'm making, is that you come to this place of recognition that there is an emptiness to all of these phenomena. And this cuts at the root of that interest. That's all it does. It just cuts at the root of that interest, and gives you the opportunity to be free of that tendency of the mind to run out or into the various fascinations that it has, because those are just conditioned ways of being. They aren't wrong, they're just conditioned ways of being. If you want to know the deep self or the true self or the prior self, the prior condition being consciousness itself or pristine awareness, if you want to know that, then these are the characteristics that you have to know during your period of silence or during your meditation, when these characteristics are present, And when you know that these three characteristics are present, then you know you can just rest, you can just relax. There's nothing left to do. And you let being pull you into itself, rather than there being this curiosity or whatever for the various objects that rise in awareness. Does that make sense? Do you even want to do that? You know, you can ask yourself that question. Do I even want to? Remember that Ramakrishna, when he was told about the reality of the self, he said, okay, to the Swami that was telling him about this, okay, so give me the instruction. So he gave him the instruction, and Ramakrishna followed the instruction, and he was gone into the self, no attachment to any object, no nothing, just his presence of awareness itself, consciousness, being, for several hours. And when he came out, he said, don't ever do that to me again. I could not find my sense of devotion to the mother in that space. There is nothing there. I am there as awareness itself, but my life is that I am in devotion to the mother. And I cannot, without the mother as object, I don't want to live. So I am not ever going there again. I know that there's form and I know that there's formlessness, but I prefer form. So I will not go into jhana again. I will simply rest at the feet of the mother for eternity. That was his choice. So where you see, we're not saying something is right or wrong. We're just simply saying this is a possibility. And do you want to explore it?
At times, yes, but it seems like I mean, I'm not sure who's even answering, but you know, when it seems more often than not the seeker is answering it.
Yeah, of course.
There's a seeing and an alertness to that play of trying to find something that's already there. So yeah, it just seems like a fairly deep-seated conditioning of going into the objects and enjoying and suffering and doing that play.
But this is also a path. It's not, there's nothing wrong with it. This is also a pathway. Yeah. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. In fact, it is the way in which it eventually, whether it's tomorrow, in 1 minute, next week, or in 100 lifetimes, it's absolutely the way you will come to ask yourself, do I want to keep going into the objects? But you keep coming back here, so I would suggest you ask yourself that question now. I'm not telling you to stop going into the objects, but you might want to ask yourself the question, how long do I want to go into the objects and suffer? You said it, not me, you said, I go into the objects and suffer. How long do you want to keep doing that? It's all well and good. Everything is perfect as it is. But how long do you want to keep doing that?
Well, I said it's both enjoyment and suffering, and that play, I think, is
Yeah.
that tension has that draw, I guess.
Yeah. So do you think though, if you can just get to perfect pleasure, you'll be okay?
No, will be short-lived.
Yeah. All pleasure is short-lived in the same way that all suffering is short-lived. Yeah. Pleasure and pain are short-lived because they are phenomenon coming and going in a phenomenal world. Yeah. What rises, what takes birth has to come to an end. It's the nature of what we call the world. What is born will die. Whether it's pleasure or a body or pain or success or failure, whatever is born in the world of awareness will eventually die. The only thing that does not die is awareness itself. And the practice of advaita, the practice of the sages, is to come to this place of recognizing and realizing that one can rest in that awareness. And in doing so, one loses interest in that shadow game of pleasure and pain, or pleasure and suffering, or even neutrality. And some people respond very well to these kinds of instruction, which take them into the formless awareness directly. That's why it's called the direct path, right? This is what Ramana called it. This path of inquiry is the direct path. But that doesn't invalidate all the other paths. You know, it's like there's the top of the mountain, and there might be 10 paths that go all around the different sides of the mountain, around the bottom of the mountain, and up the side of the mountain. But only one can be called the direct path, and that's the one that goes this way. But that's also the most difficult path. So even Ramana said, you know, you walk the path that you're on. And when you're ready, when the time is right, if you look up and you see the top of the mountain and that's really your goal, you don't just want to wander around. You've had enough wandering around on the mountain. You're done being fascinated with all the animals and all the different plants and the trees and the flowers, and you see the top of the mountain and you say, I want to see the view from there. You don't want to take another year to go around the bottom of the mountain or around the side of the mountain in order to get there. You look, and if you can see the top of the mountain, you're going to the top of the mountain. You lose interest in the trees and the plants and the monkeys and the animals and the snakes and the lizards on the way, and you just go. And this is what's referred to, this is referred to as advaita, the path of direct awareness. So take your time, enjoy, suffer. The world is perfect, life is perfect. Live without resistance, and eventually everything comes out right in the end. Everyone, yourself included, is going toward truth. So if there are 8 billion people, maybe there are 8 billion paths toward truth. Take the one which suits you, because eventually you'll come to the place where you see the top of the mountain and you'll have to go there. The forest won't interest you anymore.
When you say don't resist, what would be the sign of resistance? Suffering, or because that's already part of it?
Well, you know, resistance is, in this sense, to define it, would be that you know what the truth is. You've had the direct perception of being. You have had the direct perception of knowing. And you just keep delaying going there. So you're happier to know what the truth is, know what the path is, but you want to wander around in the forest a little bit longer. You want this personality to wander around in the forest. So you do that. And I have this all the time in satsang. I tell people, they say, well, yeah, but can't I can't I learn how to play guitar? Can't I go into this relationship? Can't I do this? Can't I do that? I say, yes, go do that. When you're done with that, you'll walk past it. Go do everything that you need to fulfill. I don't recommend that. I say go for the top of the mountain. But often in satsang, people come and they want me to validate their pleasure and their enjoyment or their avoidance. And I'm just not willing to do that. But life will do that. So I say, yes, go do that. when you're done with that, come back. Tell me, report to me what happened.
I mean, I don't, so again, it goes back to I don't think there's a sense of control here, or at least there's an imagined sense maybe of control, but it seems there's a maybe reduction in alertness, and then which happens, comes and goes, and that lack of awareness, relatively speaking, then it's fertile ground to going into one conditioning or the other.
Yeah.
I don't think if
You,
if I'm zoomed out, so to speak, whilst pursuing whatever that is, relationship, career, or whatnot, I don't think I have for a second a belief that's going to give me anything lasting.
good, okay. Then just dance.
But most of the time, there is that lower state of, it seems, quote unquote, lower alertness. And,
Yeah, yeah. See, some people enjoy being the waves, and other people enjoy being the ocean. You can decide. We are all headed for truth, sooner or later. The choice is, we don't, that's really the only choice we have. Is do we, how do we want to use this moment? And if you are happy and content with a certain level of, what'd you say, becoming less aware and going into some object, if you are happy with that, fine, this is your path, I guess. I was never happy with that. I would, I got tired of the waves fairly early in this life. That's a consequence of previous life, previous practice, you can say. So for me, I say to people, yeah, fine. If you like waves, learn to surf. Great. Or grab a big rock and sink into the deep ocean and just let go of all this movement. Because for some, that's the more interesting. It's easy to follow movement. It's not so easy to stop and be. So it's up to you. That's the only choice you have.
that's the only choice I have.
Yeah. To stop or not to stop, right? What other choices are there?
Where does identity come into play? And that'll be my last question. I know I've been taking a long time. Like shifting the identity, is there such or is that just another mind play?
Well, it is another mind play, but the thing is that shifting the identity, in other words, learning or observing what one is, how one identifies, how the conditioning perpetuates itself, how identity happens. Then one can, as I was explaining to Phil, then one can lose interest in that process of creating external identity and begin to ask the question, who am I? And turn that attention toward this source. And the last thing that happens is that when that tendency toward identification or identity collapses or dissolves, then what one experiences is that there is only being. And this is not associated with any form of identity. So the whole concept and the whole process of identity and identification with senses or objects or experiences simply dissolves. And then one is simply here as being, awareness, consciousness, whatever you want to call that. The self, one is simply here as that. And it is so full that one doesn't need another identity. One doesn't need to pursue anything that says, I am this or I am that. There is just a recognition of being.
So it's the same thing as losing interest in the objects. It's either you can lose interest in the subject, basically.
You can lose interest in the subject, right? When you try to turn the attention toward the subject. So you definitely can lose interest in the subject, but you cannot stop. I hope I can say this clearly. You cannot stop being the subject.
The real
There
subject.
there is no subject,
Yeah, the no
but
subject.
you cannot stop being the subject. Does that make sense? There is no subject. So that leaves us with you cannot stop being. So you can give up on identities, you can give up on experiences, you can give up on sensations, you can give up on all sorts of things as a form of identification. And being, consciousness, awareness, the self, will shine in its fullness. And this does not identify with anything that comes into the field of view as an object. Simply does not. You see, it takes a great deal of energy to be someone, to be something, to refer to oneself in terms of characteristics. This takes a great deal of energy. It doesn't take any effort or energy to be who I am before identity as being consciousness. This takes no effort. It's the natural state. That's why the samadhis, are referred to as nirvikalpa, sivakalpa, and sahaja. Sahaja means the natural state, that which is always here and has as its foundation effortless awareness without any characteristics. The eternal subject, you can say. The eternal subject without an I. You see, we're trying to split these concepts down into more and more subtle until we come to this place where nothing can be said about it. That's why it's called being. Nothing can be said about it. The only expression of true being of the sages is silence. The very first word that's uttered, which is I, already distorts the true meaning of silence.
Thank you, Rishiji.
So welcome. if you begin, and I know many of you have, but if you begin to accept that at your core, at the source of your being, you are being, consciousness, the supreme, the self, awareness itself, all of these synonyms for the same thing. If you accept this on a very deep level within yourself, or work maybe to accept this on a deeper level all the time, this alone will do the work of taking you nowhere but here, to knowing who you are, not through your imagination, through your projections, through your identification with some aspect of body, mind, or world, but who you truly are. But it can be helpful. Follow the teaching of the sages, in which this direct pointing happens. You are that. This points to the direct perception of the subjective, selfless nature of being. Both things are true. Know yourself to be this awareness, this alertness, this clarity, this emptiness. If you just accept that, even you don't necessarily believe it because of your conditioning, but if you begin to accept it, that someday you will come to know this, then you begin to let go of the things that bind you, of the conditioning that binds you, of the beliefs that bind you, of the forms of identification that bind you. And you keep coming back when you need to. You never leave it, but it appears that way in the mind. You keep coming back to this recognition that you are that, this I am, this I, not as an object, but as a subject. Keep coming back. Do it over and over, under all conditions of body, mind, and world. You will get there because you are already here. You will find that you left and took a long journey only to find out that you were already here, or only to find out that you were already home, or only to find out that you were going to come back around to the place you were before, but with a completely new perspective, completely new understanding. Cling to nothing, cling to nothing but being, consciousness, and let your life dance. Honor, are you calling again?
Hi, Rishi. Yes, just out of compassion for listening to these, being this body was such a serious seeker. And, you should know, as you're trying to tell these people, if you do your meditation and you listen to the inner guru, coming down the path, what you find is as you do your shadow, as more shadow, all these negative beliefs and fears are released, that's actually when more light's coming in and it's easier for you to see. So really what's after being on this journey for a while, what you find is the more shadow work and fears and things you release, the easier it is. And as Rishi says, the final little learning lesson is attachment. Because what makes the mind busy is when the mind wants something, when it's focused on the external, because the external is a complete projection. It's a complete illusion. So anything that you're chasing on the external, you're chasing the illusion, because The external is only projected. It's a projection of the actual you, source, consciousness. So movie playing. So if you understand that nothing outside you is real, then you stop chasing all the shit, because that then you let go of it, because you realize you are the universe. Nothing, there is nothing to chase out there, because everything outside that you're looking at to your eyes is an illusion. But to find awareness sounds, what made it very difficult is because you are seeing all the time. What you don't realize is what seeing is awareness. The body is not seeing. The awareness is itself is the only thing it's aware. So that'll help you. That poor man earlier on that was trying to identify awareness. It's got nothing to do with thoughts or the mind. It's actually separate from the mind. So if you have ever been in an accident, and you immediately, when you realize you're about to crash, that immediate alertness arises, and time almost stops. That's awareness. That's when you hit pure awareness, because you jump out of thought and you're just in such a state of alertness, time stands still. So if you sit somewhere and just watch, what's actually, if you realize what's being aware is you, not your body. What's seeing, what's watching, what's aware of everything around you is awareness. That is it. That is you. The body is not the one that's actually seeing. So if you're not trying to look to the eyes and you sit quietly and you just focus, as you said, effortless, practice that, you'll realize it. It's what's effortlessly seeing or watching is awareness itself. And it does become easier, for compassion's sake, it does become easier the more you do your meditations, and the more shown and the more you release and work through your so-called karma. There we are. The mind becomes quieter and quieter, and it becomes easier to. Anyway, I hope that helped anybody. Not fun. And Rishi's a fantastic teacher there as far as that goes, because that source, that whatever you need to know, you can guarantee that satsang will address that question. whatever you're not even aware of. So please trust that and just do it. You'll see it works. So if that really helps you now, knowing what's actually aware, what's actually seeing everything is awareness. It's watching all the time. It's not someone in the body watching. All right, sorry. I just felt, you want to help, because it's so difficult when you're trying so hard yourself. All right. Thank you.
Hello, Phil.
The question that arose for me is, I definitely prefer the ocean.
Yeah.
And when I was sort of sitting here and a bit of ocean, the word embodiment came up for me, and I was wondering what you would say about that, sense of breath and feet on the ground, and it just came up as like, oh, this is a precious piece of this, and I just was curious what you would say about that.
I think just to use your frame of the reference that you brought up, I would say, that both the ocean and the wave, both the ocean and the drop are the ocean. So it's important for us to understand that you cannot be anything but the embodied ocean. And the practice that I'm pointing toward, that I often point toward here, this recognition, and when I ask the question, are you aware? Or, and you say yes. This is just simply saying to the drop, remember you are the ocean. And if that's true, then eventually you come to see that there isn't any separation between the drop or the wave and the ocean. And you understand that whatever ground you are standing on, you are still, you have no choice but to embody the self. It's the mind and the interpretations of the mind and the opinions of the mind that tell us we are not the self. We are not the supreme one, or we are not being consciousness. And this is the source of all the difficulty that we see in the world, is that individuals think they are individuals. They don't realize that they are the embodied spirit of the supreme will. This is the source of all difficulties, both for us personally and for the world. So I would say, know you are the ocean at all times, and know when you feel like you are separate from the ocean, you are still the ocean. And then in that way, whatever happens in that deep space of the ocean, you simply know that everything is well, all is well, and everything is in good hands, because it is all in the hands of the Supreme.
Mhm. Thank you. That was perfect.
Yeah, okay, very good. And I think I also want to say, the more that you understand that you cannot not embody the Supreme, the more you begin to let go of those tendencies and those difficulties and those bad behaviors and those bad ways of thinking of yourself, or those negative ways of thinking of yourself or others. Those simply get left behind. It's not a big struggle. You simply, you no longer believe the most unbelievable things about yourself in terms of whether you are a good, bad, or indifferent person, whether you are a success or a failure as a person. You no longer don't believe that about yourself, because you don't believe it about yourself, because you know yourself to be in its simplest form, being. That is it. Then you also understand that everyone else is also being. Every experience is also being. The whole world is being. And one day, those misconceptions about who I am, or who a person thinks they are, or what the person believes the world to be, those misconceptions will fall apart. They have to. They are not the truth. They are the coming and going of misconceptions. So eventually they will come and go, and they will go permanently. So let yourself know that you are the truth, that you are being. And then whatever waves come and go through that ocean, just don't take it personally. Nothing truly belongs to you. When you come to understand that nothing truly belongs to you, in that very moment, you recognize that everything in some way is you. It doesn't belong to you, but it is you. And so the heart of compassion opens up. So there's compassion toward all beings who feel that they are somehow separate, that they are not the embodiment of the Supreme. And the more you realize that, the more it becomes impossible for you not to embody the self, not to embody the truth. Because it is your nature. You have to be somebody to deny the truth. You have to be somebody to deny yourself as being, consciousness, and bliss. You have to take on a personality that denies that. So if you don't do that, if you allow yourself to accept in a very deep way that you are the ocean, and that everything you do, everything that you experience is an embodiment of life itself, of the supreme motivation and motive, then you understand that all is well. You know, it's sometimes it feels very easy in some ways to embody the ocean or to embody the self. When you are smiling, you are happy, you are feeling loving, and you are feeling compassionate towards someone or something or some situation. But it can be very, very difficult, as you know, to know that you are embodying the self when you are suffering. That this also, you know, is part of whatever this prarabdha karma of this body mind has to work out. There is also a suffering Shiva. There is a suffering Buddha. And when we understand the nature of suffering as the supreme motive of life itself, as part of the supreme motivation of life itself, and we come to accept this in a very deep way, then we begin to see with compassionate eyes all of the suffering of the world. We somehow can embrace it and accept it and love through it. You know, this is the story of Kuan Yin in Japanese Zen. Kuan Yin was that bodhisattva in training, you can say, who was unable to realize her embodied nature because she had this psychic power of super hearing. And so she could hear the cries of people throughout the world who were suffering, of children, of animals. She could hear with her physical ears the suffering of creation. And it was when it came to her to open her heart and relax and listen with compassion to the suffering in the world that her awakening occurred. Through the experience of fully accepting that there isn't a distinction between pleasure and pain, that the human condition, the experience of being born in a body, has inherent in it a certain amount of suffering. The Buddha said it simply, it's old age, sickness, and birth, old age, sickness, and death. So he kind of put those four. But Kuan Yin said, I am simply listening to the suffering of the world as the, you can say as the mother, I don't know that she said that, but as the mother energy. I am listening to the suffering of the world with compassion, with full presence, with awareness, with alertness, with awareness coming into it, with full open heart, and the compassion that flowed out of her for all beings everywhere, seeing them as the supreme in their suffering state, embracing them in their suffering. This was her moment of awakening. So when you find yourself suffering in the mind, you know, everyone is going to get sick, everyone is going to have pain, everyone is going to get old, everyone is going to die. That's just a given. But when you find yourself suffering in the mind, over pain in your body, over what you see in the world, over the world state, which is really chaotic right now, when you see all of this, and you feel this degree of suffering over that, then you must let go, and you must say, everything is in the hands of the Supreme. Everything is in the hands of God. Everything is in the hands of the self. And offer your compassion, offer your wisdom knowledge, if you will, to the world. Open your heart to your own internal sense of suffering and to the suffering of the world. And you will begin to see that everything is happening just as it's meant to do, as it's meant to be. And then you may feel to do nothing, just keep loving. This is the highest sadhana. Or you may feel to do something, you know, some people feel to do something in relation to the world itself. So some people do that. But if you open the heart of compassion toward everything that is happening in your own world and in the world of around you, this heart of compassion will be felt all around you in all of the venues in which you exist, all the places you move, all the people you come into contact with. You don't need to do or be anything special. You just need to be yourself. Be aware. Be compassionate. And if all you can do is love yourself, do that. You love yourself completely. Everything else will come right in the world for you. Start where you are and move from there. Love yourself as you are. If you know yourself to be the ocean, whatever waves rise and fall won't matter. Whatever you are meant to embody, you will embody. Is there a question there? No. Okay. All right, my friends. Have a good night or a good day, whatever time it is where you are. May you be well. May you be happy. May you live in peace. May you walk in peace. Hari Om Tat Sat.